So with photography, your main thing is to always trying to get something different photo-wise. Yeah, because obviously when you go to a job, often that job has been done before, because often things are yearly. So you're always thinking, what can I do for a different photo that makes it stand out and not be boring? Like, you don't just want a photo of two people standing looking at the camera, like it's a bit boring. And think about your backgrounds, so you haven't got a lamppost growing out of the head and things like that. But the other thing is to try and get people so they're relaxed with you, really, so they're not all tense and looking at the camera. So just
Brendan,
chat and joke and
can you sneak through and close those curtains in the keeper?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't like getting their picture taken. Some people do. You guys probably all love it, do you? Yeah, so some people don't like getting their photo taken. So it's to put them at ease and try. And we try not to get people looking at the camera all the time. Is to try and get them doing what they're doing, so it doesn't look like it's been set up. Like, I'll try and take a photo of whatever's happening first, and if I can't get a good photo out of that, then sometimes you've got to set it up to get your good photo. Yeah, but so composition's a big thing. Thinking of your angles, and lighting's a big thing as well. Yeah, because you can make a boring photo so much cooler with lighting. This is an example of this. I did this, I think it was just last week, at the fire station. So the fireman got new breathing apparatus. Everyone see it there? The option was just going to be a fireman standing there with his breathing apparatus on. I thought, well, that was going to be a really boring photo. So I made the light come from the side, so it gave it stronger angles, and yeah, so it just made it a stronger photo. Yeah, and it's good to have. Sometimes you think you don't need flash that often, but I find even on a sunny day in the summer, if you've got somebody with a hat on or something, it's often quite harsh shadows in the sun in the summer. So just to put on a bit of full flash and light up their faces a bit makes it a lot stronger as well. And to get that sparkle in the eye, just to get that light.
Did you use artificial light then, or did you just put them in a place that was better?
That was my flash.
Your flash?
Yeah, but off to the side. So
yeah.
The Russian ballet was in town, and so that's their set on the Civic Theatre, and that's them in rehearsal. So they weren't in their flash costumes; they were just in rehearsal. But to me, this made it. Yeah, there's their stage, their background made that photo, and the colour was nice. That has not printed out properly because it's cut the front and the back off the car, which it was all in there. So that's, see how the background's all blurry on that, so that's called panning. So when so basically instead of just standing there and going clack, you'd actually follow it round at the same speed. So that gives you a blurred background and the subject. Yeah, you do. I had to take a few photos to get that one because often this is blurry as well. So yeah, it's just to get your speed right. It's often quite a slow shutter speed to get that blur. Yeah. So, but the colours made that. And this is one about framing, like I've framed the mountain bike rider coming through the trees in the forest. So to me, without all these trees there, like it shows where he is and it tells the story of, and it did help that he had a funny coloured wig on and it made it quite cool colour-wise. And it looks like almost black and white forest. We do lots of sport ones, obviously. So there's Jimmy Cowan in the rain down here one night. And like, it is hard taking the photos in the rain sometimes, but it does give you a cool atmosphere as well. This is just a wee baby doing swimming lessons at the pool. So that was just, having the water there coming down over his face. He was really cute. Yeah, so that with the water there made that one. We do lots of cycling down here as well with having a velodrome that we have now. So I do quite a bit of sport with the cycling and the rugby. So this man's had a big crash. He's got all his skin off here and here, and he could hardly walk when he got off. He was really sore, but he went on to win that. That's the Colombians when they won at the World Junior Champs. So that was them just looking really happy with themselves. They've got their flag. They're not looking at the camera, so they weren't particularly worried about me being there. But it shows the moment where they're exhausted and happy with each other. So that's a bit of an arty one at the cycling, so that's another panning one where I've zoomed along with the cyclist. So you can sort of tell it's bikes, but it's a bit blurry. So that's just a bit of an arty look. Oh, this was our Olympians in the parade that we had in town not long ago. So Storm and Nathan with their medals. And I like that one because they're actually throwing the ticker tape back at the crowd. So instead of just standing there smiling at the camera, they're actually doing something. So they're actually doing a big throwback, which I thought looked quite cool. He's even got his tongue out, he's concentrating. What else have we got here? More cycling. So that one, it's about the lines, they're all lined up, all tight. So that sort of made that a bit more interesting. And here's Nano and the All Blacks and the rugby.
Can you tell us a wee bit, Robyn, about the thirds?
Yes.
Do you have a...
Yep. Which is a good example of that. The thirds of a photo, you think of your photo ruled into thirds that way and thirds that way, and that gives you your composition. So a strongest place to have, instead of having it smack in the centre, you try and put it off to a third. These are the strong parts, and it gives you a more interesting lighting. I'm trying to see if I've got any examples of that. Oh, nasty weather.
Aren't you pleased you were at the Waituna Lagoon this morning and not now?
So where have you been, Waituna?
Waituna planting
Oh, good.
for the Waituna Lagoon.
Good day then.
But there's a group out there at the moment.
But they
so
might not be ready.
they may not get
getting
this.
Or it might be worse. So that's just action, and it's another one there.
So that one of Richie, is that a portrait? Would you call that a portrait?
Yes, you'd call that a portrait. Normally a portrait would be fairly close in on him, and they don't have to be looking at the camera for a portrait. Sometimes it's nice to get a profile-y shot of them in their environment, and you'd get them looking away maybe, where, yeah.
So if you're...
Do you expose the All Blacks games to take pictures?
Yeah, only if they're down here, only if they're Dunedin. Yeah,
Cool,
I
that
don't
way.
get to go up north very often because we've got other photographers up there. So it is pretty cool.
You've been in the change rooms too, haven't you?
Not for the All Blacks.
When you're doing your articles, you're probably, portrait photos are the ones that you're probably going to be taking the most of. But you've got to try and make them look interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so you've got to think about your light. Normally a portrait would be a vertical, so straight up and down, like that one of Richie. But you can have it like a profile type one as a horizontal and have them in the third out to the side. Like maybe that fireman one was an example of that. Out to the side a little bit. Yeah, and think about your light, yeah, whether you want, yeah, sometimes the flash straight in their face, it just makes it all look pretty boring. So if you can get some window light coming through, get them close to a window and have that coming through on their face, it might give you some nice, and always focus for the eyes. If you're doing portraits, you've got to have their eyes sharp. Smith getting a try at the All Blacks, so that's hard to get timing wise because you've got to be right there as he's running fast to get it. But the one I like, this is the Olympians at the All Blacks game. I like that one of Storm because he's got a big smile on his face, like he's nice and relaxed. He's really happy. He's really happy that he's got his medal. They reckon that was just as cool to have all that crowd at the All Blacks game. There was 30,000 odd people, just as cool there as it was at the Olympics when they got their medals. And there's another try one, there's Tim Cornforth there getting a try.
That one's in thirds too, isn't it? Because he's in the bottom
Yes.
third.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's sort of framing.
So like that's the main bit of your photo, but this is to show what was happening, that he had snuck in under there and got it. Now this is one, so this is, they're filming a video on hairdressing for this one, but I wanted to show that they were filming it, so I wanted to keep the cameraman in the photo, because I could have come right into these people, but you wouldn't have really known what they were doing. It just looked like a hairdresser. But to keep the cameraman in there, and there's your thirds as well, because he's in 1/3, and yeah. So you can tell by looking at that photo what they're actually doing. Yeah, that they're filming that video. So any more good examples? That's a bit of a thirds one as well. I liked, that's a book sale at the library, but I walked in and I looked at doing a horizontal one with all the books, but then I really liked this window in the back. So I went for a vertical shot for that one because you can still see the books, but I like the window, how it sort of framed it up. Yeah. So it's not a terribly exciting subject, it's just some ladies and some books, but yeah, it was to make it as interesting as I could make it. And the same with these chess boys, they're at Southern Boys High School.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, so it was some kids who had won the Southern chess competition and they're going away to compete in the nationals, so it's the first time it's happened and for a long time and they're pretty excited. But so I got there and I was like, oh, how am I going to get an interesting photo, because it was just boys and some chess. But so that was about the lighting. Like I got down, I had my camera right down low on the chessboard, so the chess pieces actually looked quite big. And I had made the interesting lighting coming through from the side, which gave them a bit of a feature on their faces. So it's to think about your lighting and your angles, and yeah, so that made it a bit of a stronger picture. Oh, that's just, we do the food photos in the paper for Graham Hawkes' food. So this is a gas torch burning the creme brulee on top. So it was just to show, that's what you'd call a still life probably. So you could get fruit in a basket or anything like that.
Hey, do you have any like nature photos?
Not a lot of nature ones, no, because we've got enough photographers that do bird photos. Barry Harcourt does a lot of wildlife for us, so...
Bethany has a passion
do you?
for birds and wildlife.
Yeah, so no, don't do a lot, yeah, because Barry sends them in and yeah, so we can't have a newspaper full of wildlife photos because they've got to have a story behind the photo. Yeah. And that was another one that's sort of in thirds as well. That was the pear cut just the other day. So that was the jeweller's shop. They had to shut the door because they had no power, so no security. So they had their candle and their torch. And I made it vertical so you could see the jewellery so we could tell where we were. That's another blurry one, printing the book.
What is that?
That's a printer at a printing press at Craig's Printing. And that's the cover of the Southern Times book that's coming out, the 150th. And that's whizzing through because I wanted to show, because they were whizzing through the printer, I wanted to show that movement coming through. And we're probably almost back to the start. Yes, we are. Back to them. So yeah, I think they're the main things for you. Think about your lighting and your angles, especially if you're doing lots of portraits.
Okay.
If you're doing sports, if you're getting someone running or any sort of movement in it, your camera normally will have a sports setting on it, so it's normally a wee man running. So you'd normally put it on that, and that gives you a faster, a faster shutter speed, so that you keep it sharp basically, because otherwise it would be a blur. But sometimes, yeah, you want that blur if you're panning. So experiment is all I can say. Take lots of photos and different settings, and some with flash and some without, and think about your angles and your lighting.
Who writes the captions for the photos?
Excuse me. We put a caption in the system where these are kept, where they're stored. We're part of Fairfax, so that's a Australasian company. So these photos, all the papers in New Zealand can see these papers with the photos. We use them. So we put a caption in so somebody in Auckland can pick up that photo and know what it is. But when it appears in the paper, the reporter writes that caption. Yeah, because they're better with their words, aren't they? And yeah, it's all got to be spelt right and worded correctly. You've got to get people's names spelt right. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Robyn about photography or about her job at the Southern Times?
What kind of camera do you use?
I use a Canon. I brought my bag along to show you. Do you want to have a look at that?
Please.
So this is my camera bag here. Ooh, it's quite heavy. So, and we all use Canon cameras.
Your camera is that big?
Yeah, so it's got, in my bag, it's got my camera, and so, and it's got, I've got 3 different lenses with it. So I've got a wide angle lens, and that one's an in between, so that's a 24-70 zoom, and then that one is a bigger zoom, so I can zoom in for sports stuff. And I also have my flash in here as well, so I can use that. And a spare battery, of course, you've got to have a spare battery. Yeah, and a notebook. You've got to have a notebook so you can write down people's names and captions. Yeah.